A seismic shift has taken place in the world of work. Diversity and inclusion are no longer simply nice to have. These concepts are front and centre of how we do business. I'm Rachel Wilson, MD of diversity consultancy EW Group, and I'm excited to welcome you aboard Season 4 of the Reworked podcast. Join me in conversation with the leading thinkers and doers on diversity as we unpick the fabric of working culture to discover how inclusion can become the golden thread that runs throughout all aspects of business. So welcome to the Reworked podcast, Nikki Pritchard. Hello.
Hi, thank you, Rachel, for having me here. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too, very much. Let me just introduce you before we get stuck in. So, Nikki, you are a managing partner and founder at executive search firm Anderson Quigley, who specialise in working with and supporting organisations who have a social purpose in the public sector. So everywhere from health, education to non-profits and beyond. And I'm sure you're going to tell us more about the work that you do. The EW Group has been an EDI partner of Anderson Quigley for 3 years now. So it felt like it would be a great moment to sit down with you and discuss the work that you've done, the results that you've seen, what the drivers were for it in the first place. And I'm really excited to hear a bit more about that this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I guess my first question then really is because you are a company with this social purpose at your core and working with clients who have that as well, how does the EDI piece sort of chime with that for you? Was that the starting point for you when you started thinking about beginning your diversity and inclusion journey? Was it coming from that social purpose angle?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we're a business that was created to support clients and candidates in the public sector. So right from the outset, EDI was integral to our company culture and all of the work that we do. And diversity is one of our core company values as well. So I can say that, yes, right from the start, it was absolutely integral to what we do as a business and how we work with our clients and candidates. And, you know, many of our team have been used to working with EDI in some form because they've worked in the public sector sphere. And we all have a really strong support of social issues, and we, you know, dealing with the public sector, we want to ensure that we are doing our bit to try and affect change and to, you know, bring greater diversity to these organisations that we work with.
Brilliant. Were your clients, do they ask you proactively about your own diversity when you're working with them, and you know what the culture is like at Anderson Quigley? Is some of this driven by them and what they want to see from you?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we can't support our clients in their diversity objectives if we truly don't understand what our own are and we're not working on them ourselves. So that's been really important for us, and right from the start and inception of the business, you know, we knew that we had to get our own house in order to actually be the trusted partner and the expert to our clients and our candidates. So yes, we do get challenged on the diversity of our own business, and that's often, you know, part of proposals. So we talk a lot about how we're dealing with diversity within our own business, because that obviously shows the depth of our understanding and our knowledge about it, so that clients then feel like we're proper partners with them on this journey. And sometimes we understand what their objectives might be, you know, more than they might quite understand them.
So the business has been, so you co-founded the company, is it coming up to 5 years?
Yes, we're coming up to 5 years early next year.
Wow. So can you paint a picture of the organisation? How big are you? You're London based. I think just got one London office, is that right? And how many people? And
yes, so well, we are London based, but we have staff all over the country actually. So we're a team of approximately 20 at the moment, both permanent and a few contractors as well. And yes, we have a London-based office, but we're a real hybrid working team. So we've got staff that work out of Leeds, for example, Wales, other parts of the country, yes. So we're growing. We're a tight knit business, and yeah, it's just an exciting time actually, because we're really starting to, you know, to see our growth plans coming up to 5 years. We're starting to grow the team as well. So it's quite an exciting time for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. That's good to hear. And it's always interesting to work with an organisation where the staff are so spread geographically and how you manage that in terms of building an inclusive workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's not without its challenges, but I think because we've always been structured that way, that we've known right from the start. So we've put a lot of things in place to make sure that staff always feel included. And you know, I think that's part of the beauty of working at AQ, where we're a very we like to say we're a grown-up business. We're a small team, but we're a group of professionals who many have worked with each other for quite a number of years. So there's a core group of people kind of know each other, but we've got a lot of newcomers in the team. And one really important part for us is making sure that anybody that comes into the business really feels included, because we're all very different. We're all a group of very different people. We're also not a hugely hierarchical business. So we always champion people coming into the business who are bringing new skill sets, bringing new experiences and backgrounds. And it's that breadth and depth of diversity that actually we really value, because that's what makes us a really good team to be part of, but also that's what makes our business hugely successful. It's leveraging off the back of all of that diverse elements of our team to really push forward and develop and grow the business.
So it comes across loud and clear that you've done a lot of thinking about your own diversity story and the drivers for this at AQ. Was it always this way? Or if we go back 3 years to when we started working with you, what sort of position were you in then around EDI?
Sure.
How did you get work off the ground, I guess, in the first place? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, look, I have to say that it was always there from the start. You know, we wanted to be an organisation that tackled underrepresentation of marginalised groups in society. These are the broad issues. We wanted to be anti-racist. You know, we wanted to drive inclusivity on leadership teams within the organisations that we work in. So they were the broad business drivers. But as recruiters, we've got a really important role to play in this process. And actually, we're really privileged because we're part of a process that can actually really affect change. And we can be those partners that support bringing more diversity to organisations and to boards. So our drivers have always been there, but I have to say that the journey that we've been on in the past 5 years, I look back to what we were doing with EDI at the start, and we were taking baby steps. Because whilst, as I said, there was lots of people in the business who had worked with EDI, we weren't experts in the field. So I look back now and I think actually the journey that we've been on and where we've got to now feels a little bit more like we're running now with it. We feel much more confident about the work that we've put in place and actually the direction that we're headed in as well.
Great, amazing. So let's just go back to where we started then, where the project started. So I know our first engagement with you was around delivering training. Yes. for all staff. Obviously, it's quite a small team, so that was relatively easy. But I know we separated staff and leadership out and had 2 separate conversations, which is our usual approach. And I think whatever size of business, you need a bit of you need some tailoring to different groups. Even if you've got quite a flat, non-hierarchical structure, I think the conversations have to be slightly different, don't they, at leadership level?
Yes, I really agree with that. And the reason we did that was because as a leadership team, we wanted to be really clear on what our objectives were, what our AQ voice was going to be about this. Because if as leaders, we didn't know what we were doing, how on earth could we disseminate that down to the team and then bring the team on the journey with us? So that was really important. Although I do have to say that because it was our first part of the learning process, the optics of that we had to manage quite carefully, because sometimes it can be seen as leadership team, everybody else. So that was a good learning for us to understand that actually we had to communicate why we were doing that, why we were kind of separating out the two separate parts of the training to start with. But it also meant that the rest of the team, we wanted them to feel really comfortable to perhaps say things, voice things about leadership that they might not have wanted to do with us in the room. So it worked in that respect, that we could be really clear with the leadership team as where we were going with this, and also for the consultant that we worked with to pull out areas that she thought that we needed to be challenged on. That we needed to do more work on and reflect on, and just understand as a leadership team kind of how we were going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. That setup and the communications ahead of any training rollout has to be really well thought through, doesn't it? So that people know that they aren't going to come into a room feeling like they're going to be told off, or it's going to be an awkward conversation, or I'm going to make them feel uncomfortable. I think it has to be set up really, really delicately. But then, like you say, I think when people get into the room for one of these sorts of sessions, they realise that as the conversation starts, that they don't want their manager there necessarily, or the leadership, because that's how, the best conversations then start to flow when people feel able to speak.
Yeah, I agree. And, talking about ED&I can be challenging. It can be hard. People, especially in a group environment, can feel very underconfident that they don't know enough and therefore they don't want to say something, or they don't want to ask a question, which in our industry, when you've been working for maybe your entire career in this industry, there is an expectation that you will have a really good understanding of ED&I and how it should be weaved into the work that you do. So putting your hand up and asking a question, if you're a senior person within the business, can be really daunting, because you think there's no way I'm going to ask this because I should know this. But the reality is we don't all know this, regardless of how long we've worked in the industry. And our understanding of ED&I is moving so rapidly in society that we cannot be expected to know everything.
Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah, that's true in all businesses that we go into. That I think for leadership in particular, this is why these conversations are so important, because they don't have the opportunity to put their hand up and say, I don't know, can I use this term? How do I talk about this group of people? How do I engage this group of people? How do I tell my own story? All of those sorts of things. They don't have the opportunity to ask those questions, like you say. It's so important.
Exactly. And we don't expect our team to know all of this. That part of our role is to make sure that we are providing training in this area, and that we're providing an open environment where people can feel that they can ask questions. We don't want people to feel like they need to be experts, but we do want them to have a growth mindset. We want them to think about things that they've not thought about before, and to really engage with us on this.
Brilliant. You speak so powerfully about this, Nikki. It's really great to talk to you. Because and then the other thing that you did after the training was provide some one-to-ones, sort of mini coaching sessions for staff. And I think that's not everybody has the resources to do that. Some bigger organisations, I think, would like to, but it feels too mammoth a piece of work to roll out. But for me, that seems like there's so much value then after a session, when potentially all sorts of conversations may have bubbled up and different topics, that people have an opportunity to follow that up one-to-one, particularly if conversations have triggered them in different ways around their own lived experiences. So were those well received? Was there good take up on those sessions?
Absolutely. And it was really important for us to run those, because it did become clear in the all team sessions, when I sat there and I looked around the table and I started to take in who was asking questions tentatively, who was keeping quiet, who looked like they wanted to ask something more, but they didn't feel like they had the confidence. I felt that we weren't really getting the best out of everybody, and perhaps that learning wasn't right for everyone. And myself, I'm quite an introvert. I know that the way I learn and the way I engage is so much better on a one-to-one level. So having those one-to-one mentoring sessions were really invaluable. It is something we will continue to do because as a form of training, I think it's a fantastic thing to do. And it meant that each individual could talk about objectives with the consultant, with their mentor, that were relevant to their role within the business and to their challenges that they face within the business, because it's different for everybody. It's a safe environment where they can be really open, they can ask questions, there's no judgment, and I think it excels that learning much, much quicker than if you were doing that in a whole group environment. I hear what you say about us being privileged to be able to do that, but we have decided that actually in when we look at training budgets and we look at what we want to do for our team, that's important for us. So we're going to set aside budget to be able to do that. And being a small team, as I said, we're in a privileged position that we can facilitate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. And so you're more moving on now into a new phase of sort of EDI work, I think, into a more specific sessions around inclusive recruitment. Could you tell us a little bit more about that program and who that's reaching and what the sort of topics are that you're covering within that?
Yes, so I guess as our journey evolves on this, we feel like we've done a lot of the groundwork. So a lot of the training has been about, legislation and how it applies to our business and how it applies to our candidates and our clients, unconscious bias and how that applies again to what we're doing within our business. But I think that the movement now is much more towards a deeper understanding of ED&I in specific relation to how we can support our clients, how we can grow our own team, and that's really, really important because we want to ensure that the talent out there recognises that Anderson Quigley is a place where they can bring their whole self to the business. They will be championed, and their uniqueness is important to what we're doing. So that inclusive side of the business, we only want to push more and more. And I think to do that, we need to understand ourselves even more. So training becomes a really important part of that. But we're also doing a lot of project work internally and externally, because it's only by constantly talking about D&I that people feel more comfortable and they'll open up more. So we've got a lot of internal projects that we do. We're constantly talking about it. I take accountability at board level for ED&I. So, my remit is really to ensure that I'm moving the business in the direction that we want to go, that we're following the strategy that we've put in place, and that I'm focusing on both how that affects us internally and how we're growing internally, because of course as we grow and as the business gets bigger, often it's harder to manage that, and you have to have more put in place to ensure that you're constantly focusing on it, but also how that's affecting us externally, and what is the perception of Anderson Quigley to our clients and candidates, and what does that mean for the work that we're doing for them.
So how are you starting to measure the impact that this work's having? Have you got some metrics that you're tracking?
We do. So we've always been a business who has been heavy on the data side, and that's collection of data both on placements, but also of the candidates that are coming through our process. It's like any recruitment business, well, most recruitment businesses. It's a huge challenge. I mean, data is a huge challenge for every business. Diversity data is a huge challenge, both on collection and analysis and tracking what you're doing. So yes, we have seen huge leaps and bounds in one particular area, which is the non-executive director area. So looking back across the past year, our placements at board level, we've done a lot of non-executive director roles. They have been 50% to females and 30% to non-white British candidates. Now, when you think about the underrepresentation on UK organisations' boards, that's a good step in the direction that we want to be moving, and we only want to build further on that.
Amazing.
And then I guess metrics of our own business, you know, when we look at our talent acquisition, we're really focused on the different diversity we can bring into the team. You know, I guess we're experts in a way at looking at people's skill sets and their CVs in a slightly different way, and that, you know, we're not always looking at the typical candidate who might have, you know, the prerequisite skill set and has all the experience, but actually we often look for the candidates who they might have something more, you know, they might almost be there but need a bit of development, or they bring skill sets from an outside sector, you know, so we're always looking to diversify our team from background, experience, skill set, breadth of knowledge, and ambition.
Fantastic. I'm just thinking about the work that you're doing, the first part of your answer there, which about the diversity that you can bring to the candidate slate, and then you know, to get hired into the client organisations that you work with. And that's an amazing influence that you can have, that makes an immediate difference, I guess. But I'm thinking about, how do you know, we work with lots of organisations who struggle to retain, you know, they do all this great work attracting diverse staff and candidates, and then the issue then becomes about retaining those people and creating an inclusive environment in which everybody feels, obviously, that they can contribute and that their voice is heard, and avoid this revolving door type syndrome where you're bringing in diversity, but then it's exiting almost straight away. So I'm just wondering, are there ways in which you can influence? Obviously, you can't directly control that with your clients, how inclusive their cultures are when your candidates get there. But have you found ways to influence them, work with them in any way to develop that inclusive culture?
So I think, you know, the point of time that we come into the process is obviously, you know, right at the start. What's important, I think, is that, especially with all clients, whether they be long-standing clients that we do a lot of work with or new clients, we have to understand what their EDI objectives are. Now, in many public sector organisations, it's very clear what their objectives are, but often we might be working with teams within that organisation who perhaps are not as au fait with what those entire organisation objectives are. So it's about ensuring that we're drilling down a little bit to really understand that. And then that supports how we can partner with them to guide them in a direction. Now, we have to challenge clients, and we talk about our AQ challenge voice to clients, which has been really important for us to develop, because, you know, we're stepping into a process where we are the experts in finding the candidates, but we often also need to be the experts in finding the diverse candidates, because every recruitment business gets asked that question: how are you going to deliver me a diverse list? And often it's by answering that question intelligently and with a really good understanding of their organisation and what they're trying to achieve, you know, and broadly with ED&I, that you will hopefully win the work. And actually, we have seen a lot of work being won on the basis of the work that we do in this area and our authenticity around it, because it's not just something we talk about in a pitch and in a proposal. It's something we live and breathe within the business as well. So being able to portray that to your client, to give them that level of confidence that actually ED&I is not a bolt-on. It's not going to be something that is separate to running alongside the process. It's integral to the process. And what that means is that, you know, the quality of our research means that a diverse list is always going to be first and foremost what we want to deliver to a client. You talked about the inclusive piece then. So, you know, that is a little more challenging, because we then step out of a process, obviously, once someone is in place. But I think as part of working with clients and understanding what their objectives are, those discussions do happen. But the challenge is that we then, as I said, step out of that process at a certain point so we can be as influential as possible. And we hope that all of the work that we do as part of the process starts to filter through into what those organisations are doing to retain and make feel included all of their staff.
It's certainly, you know, everything that you're saying about the work that you're doing at AQ, just the authenticity comes across loud and clear, Nikki. I can tell that the work that we've done and that you're doing independently is about weaving the D&I into everything that you do, and that's making it business as usual, really. And clearly a business differentiator for you, and a way of you providing a better service to clients, the best service to clients. That's coming across really loud and clear. What's next then for you on the EDI journey? I'm sure you've got more. Talking to you now, I'm absolutely sure you've got more plans, but where do you see, what's the next challenge or opportunity for you?
Well, I think we'll always hinge it around training and a deeper understanding, because that just goes hand in hand with how everything is evolving. So that will always be a really core part of what we're doing as a business. So we're kind of coming up to the end of this year. I'm already looking at what does 2022 look like in regards to training? How do we build on what we've already done? And we'll do that year upon year. So ED&I will always be part of what our professional development is for our team. You know, we've been part of the Inclusive Pledge, the EW Inclusive Pledge this year. We will continue to do that year upon year, because the networks that's opened us up to, and the ability to, you know, be part of the roundtables and to listen to other organisations, many of who are much larger than us, and they have kind of dedicated, you know, EDI leads within their business, and they're directing huge organisations that have kind of long-standing work in this area, or they're trying to turn the ship. You know, hearing from those people is really invaluable. So we'll absolutely continue to do that. We've got a lot of project work, both internally and externally, which we're starting to think about. And I have to say, kind of what our project work we thought would be, say, a year ago, has evolved and matured a lot now. And so I think we're trying to define more, what is it that we can present out to our clients and to our candidates that is our USP in this area? What is different about AQ that is not what everybody else is saying about D&I? Because, you know, it's that authenticity piece and the work that we're doing around it, that we know we've won work off the back of, because it's our you know, it is a real focus. So the training piece, the evolution of project work, and it helps our talent acquisition as well. So, you know, we've had a recent new starter who said that, you know, one of the big pull factors for her to AQ was the work that we're doing around ED&I, because it just wasn't something that she was seeing within the business that she was in before, and actually that was hugely attractive for her, and the support that we put around it, because that's important as well. So if someone feels like, you know, not only are we trying to be inclusive within our own business and we're actively doing things to make sure that that is happening, but we're putting support in place for our team to really work on how they're speaking with their clients and their candidates, and that they're feeling far more confident about it. And that's what we want. You know, we want our team to be going out there and talking about this confidently, intelligently, with a really good understanding, because that just shows to clients that, as I said before, this is not a bolt-on. This is not something that we do, you know, over and above. It's integral to the way we work at AQ.
That's so such an amazing validation, isn't it? When a new recruit says something like that, that really does. It's making me feel quite emotional for you, but it just gives you a kind of that's a really true warm glow from that kind of feedback, isn't it?
It is, and you know, we hope that means that anybody that's looking to come to AQ sees it as an inclusive business and knows that that's a place where they'll be valued, and that's a place where they can be open about who they are and what they bring to the table. You know, it's really challenging growing a business on the people side. It's really challenging to find really good people who want to be part of of your culture. And so anything we can do that attracts more diverse talent, we want to try and do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it's only becoming more and more important for people entering the workforce to what their future employer stands for, and how they conduct themselves is just it's just going higher and higher up everyone's consciousness, isn't it? But it's such a brilliant case study hearing about the work that you've been doing. I mean, you've experienced quite almost the full range of EW Group services in a way, from the training, coaching. You've also done some e-learning, which we haven't talked about, inclusive recruitment. You are members of the Inclusive Culture Pledge, as you just mentioned. So I'll just say for anyone listening that that's an initiative which is exclusively for EW Group clients. It's a free of charge sort of a network in which we facilitate conversations between clients and provide resources and opportunities to share. And can
I just say, Rachel, what's brilliant about the Inclusive Pledge is that it really makes you look at your business and put down on paper some really clear objectives that you're going to work to and that you need to deliver within the year. So it was great for us in that respect, because it really made us focus on what we needed to do. And I look back now on what we said we were going to do, and we've done it. Yeah. So and I'm looking forward to what that means next year, because it will have to be kind of another set of objectives that we're really going to push towards and focus on. And it's great to just know that you've set something in place for yourself that you need to achieve.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, the pledge is really, for some organisations, it's literally just a statement, a sentence of of how they're going to continue to build an inclusive culture in that 12-month period. Others, like AQ, maybe taking it a little bit further and been more ambitious and come up with a number of objectives that they want to meet, which is fantastic. But it is amazing what just one statement, how that can focus the mind, or an organisation's mind, towards sometimes the simple approach. Actually, it can be the most effective, I think. But the thing we didn't talk about, which I just wanted to quickly ask you about, was your experience of attending our Institute of Leadership and Management. You are an EDI accredited professional, actually, because you have the level 4 qualification from us, which is a one-day course. And it's not, I mean, we get all sorts of different levels of seniority on that course. It is really focused for diversity champions, diversity leads within organisations, rather than founders and managing partners. But how did you find that experience? Has that given you some structure as well in which to drive the organisation forward?
Absolutely. For me, I felt that if I was going to be the EDI lead for the business, I needed some training myself. With a bit of imposter syndrome, really, I suppose. I felt like I needed that base and some form of qualification to kind of really push myself. But what it did do was because of the areas of study that it entails, it made me really step back and almost look at the business as if we were starting again from afresh. So had I had that knowledge prior, what maybe would I have done differently? And there was a couple of areas. So one was our policy, our EDI policy. To look at that to make sure that actually it was fit for purpose for the business that we are today, not what we were 5 years ago, that it was authentic to our voice, because looking back on it, it was a policy that could potentially be attributable to any organisation. It wasn't really our authentic voice.
It's funny, they need to live and breathe policies. They do. They need to be living documents, and in your voice, it's true. Yeah,
absolutely. So it was great in that respect to review it. It was taking some theoretical models and applying them to our business and the kind of life cycle that we were at, and that was interesting to do, both from a whole collective organisation, but also some people within the organization. At what stage is people's development, and therefore where do we need to look at further focus for the business and for individuals. So it put us a bit more on a track of some clear objectives of the things that we needed to work on, and it also gave me the opportunity, to speak with other people, again, a bit like the Inclusive Culture Pledge, who are really passionate about ED&I, who are all working to some capacity within their own organisations about this. The challenges that came up, we could talk about what those challenges were. So it was hugely beneficial. It's something I really would recommend to anyone that's taking an EDI lead or accountability within their organisation, because it just gives you that foundation of understanding that then supports the direction that you're moving in. It helps to clarify that a lot more.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. Thank you so much. I know you're working with Nina Amu at the moment, our consultant. So I look forward to hearing again, maybe in another 12 months, how you've been progressing on your EDI journey with Nina. You've done amazing work. So it's
and I just have to
so
say,
well formed.
I have to say, working with Nina has been brilliant. She really has sought to understand our business, and the one-to-ones that she's had with everybody. She fits really well within our business. She's gelled really well. People have really engaged and responded with her, and that's important. That's really important. And her insights into the different challenges within our business and the kind of development process and journey of our team, it's all really helped, because it's a bit like a helicopter view of the business that perhaps when you're in it you don't necessarily see all of it, and especially with the one-to-ones, her having that really confidential space with the team has given her a fantastic overview of who we are and where our challenges are and where we need to focus. So she will be absolutely integral in what our plans are for next year and further down the track, because she will help us and guide us in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so pleased to hear that, obviously, and I'm sure Nina will be too when she listens back. But we really proud and pleased of our partnership, Nikki, with AQ, and look forward to walking sort of hand in hand with you through the rest of your EDI journey. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a useful case study, and I'm sure it will inspire lots of others, not just who are working at a relatively small scale headcount wise like you are, but much larger organisations too. There's so much to learn from what you've shared this morning. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to the EW Group for all the support you've given us. It's been an amazing journey.
I hope this month's episode has brought you new ways of thinking about inclusion at work and ideas for what you might do next in your organisation. Check out the episode description for social media accounts for us and for our guests. We'll be back again next month. This is an independent, advert-free podcast, and we rely on your support to keep making these broadcasts. We'd love it if you could subscribe, like, and review us. See you next time.